Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham. Israel accepted a ceasefire proposal today, hoping to end the escalating violence in the Middle East. Hamas responded by launching more rockets. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will intensify its Gaza campaign if Hamas keeps attacking. As Chris Mitchell reports, it is uncertain what happens next.
Hamas continued its rocket fire after rejecting the Egyptian ceasefire proposal, while Israel stopped its airstrikes against the terror group. A former high-ranking Israeli official told CBN News the ceasefire proposal backs Hamas into a corner. If they reject this very public offer, then Israel will be able to renew its military operation with the backing of the international community.
Now, if Hamas rejects the Egyptian proposal, if Hamas continues to shoot rockets at Israeli cities, we are prepared to continue the military operation and to intensify it as need be to protect our people.
Diplomatically, it also pits Hamas against other players in the region, like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the U.S. On the military front, according to an Israeli official, Hamas sustained a significant blow and failed in almost all of its objectives, in large part due to the effectiveness of the Iron Dome anti-missile system.
Every time they are launching a rocket at the State of Israel, they are meeting a brick wall called the Iron Dome.
Yet without a military victory, Hamas seeks to win on another battlefield.
Hamas views journalism as war.
Dan Gordon is a Hollywood screenwriter. He spoke with CBN News as a civilian before being called into the reserves. He says Hamas may have lost on the battlefield, but does much better on the world stage.
The other part, however, of their campaign is world opinion, and it's really quite insidious. It's to engage in active terror while claiming the mantle of victimhood. The object of that is to turn world opinion so that even though they're losing militarily, world opinion will say, we really have to stop the Israelis from committing these horrible acts of barbarism against the peace-loving Hamas. And in that, unfortunately, segments of the media actually unwittingly act as enablers.
Now Hamas will have to deal in the diplomatic arena, and with a peace offer on the table, it will put more political pressure on Hamas to accept the proposal. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Chris, thank you. During a Ramadan dinner with Muslim leaders Monday, President Obama lamented on the deaths of Palestinians, but reiterated the U.S. has been clear Israel has the right to defend itself against, quote, inexcusable rocket attacks. One of the highest-level whistleblowers from the National Security Agency says the NSA is moving toward watching everyone. The London Guardian reports William Binney told a conference in London, quote, the ultimate goal of the NSA is total population control. Binney says the NSA is recording at least 80% of audio calls. And he tells the paper he's had indirect contact with some NSA employees who are disgusted with what the agency is doing. Former Taliban prisoner Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl has returned to work in the military. The Army announced Monday Bergdahl has been assigned to a desk job on the same base in Texas, where he's been recuperating from his 5 years of Taliban captivity. This ends the formal phase of 2 months of transition, and the Pentagon says it has concluded he did not engage in any criminal misconduct while he was a prisoner. But the military is still investigating if he deserted his post, and those findings will determine if he faces any punishment. Democrats and Republicans say President Obama has the power to stop the immigration crisis. But will he? Members of both parties say it is up to the president. They say if he fixes an immigration law loophole, it could stop the flood of children pouring into the U.S. Aldea Hurd has the story.
How to stop the surge against America's southern border by hundreds of thousands of undocumented men, women, and children from Central America. Texas Governor Rick Perry says it could have been stopped long ago if President Obama had wanted to or had been paying attention.
We called some 4 years ago for 1,000 National Guard troops to temporarily go to the border so that they could help push forward that show of force, if you will.
The spike in illegal children started in 2012, the same year that Texas Governor Perry first warned Obama about the problem. It grew again rapidly in 2013 and exploded this year. The crisis has once again raised questions about the Obama administration's competence, and many Democrats agree with Republicans that the administration could have done more by acting sooner. But a Texas Democrat says more soldiers on the border isn't enough.
Well, Governor Perry's just wrong on that issue. He wants to put more National Guardsmen, and if they put more National Guardsmen, the children wouldn't come. They're going to continue to come as long as those conditions exist, and we don't fix our broken immigration system.
The White House says it needs more money to fix the problem, $3.7 billion. But congressional Republicans say too much of that goes to housing illegal aliens rather than securing the border. A 2009 study showed that for $3 billion more, a secure fence could be built along America's entire southern border. Congressional leaders say the president could relieve much of the crisis without waiting for congressional action, which is likely to take a long time.
The president has tools in his toolbox that he can do immediately to stop this. So he needs to re-engage, get folks who are doing administrative work on the border. They need to make sure they send a very clear signal.
The president could go to Congress tomorrow and change a provision in a law passed in 2008, which plays a key factor in the current crisis, by letting Central American kids stay in the U.S. without being quickly deported. The law was intended to let potential victims of sex trafficking stay in the U.S. until a judge could hear their case. But that provision turned into a way for kids to end up staying in the U.S., since the court system is backlogged and some never show up for their hearing. Now Congress is waiting to see if the president will act. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Missouri Governor Jay Nixon has vetoed legislation that would have allowed trained teachers to carry concealed guns. The Democratic governor says arming teachers will not make schools safer and, quote, I cannot condone putting firearms in the hands of educators who should be focused on teaching our kids. Supporters of the legislation argue training and arming school personnel could save students' lives, and that school protection officers could respond to an attacker without waiting for police to arrive. Extreme heat in some areas of the U.S. has spawned severe thunderstorms. Across the Northeast, violent weather is causing some major damage. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, abnormally cold temperatures are making headlines. Caitlin Burke reports.
The Northeast is getting drenched. Powerful storm systems bringing heavy rain, strong winds, and hail.
It looks like we got the worst of it based on what I'm seeing.
In South Jersey, winds uprooted trees that then crushed both cars and even homes.
Like nothing I've ever really heard. It sounded kind of like a tornado.
In Washington, D.C., a huge lightning bolt appeared to hit right behind the U.S. Capitol dome, possibly striking the Library of Congress. Residents said the heavy rain and howling winds caught them off guard.
That storm was crazy. I'm little like, I wasn't expecting it to be so powerful.
Meanwhile, the upper Midwest is getting 3 days of fall temperatures in July. In some areas, temperatures dipping 10 to 20 degrees below normal. Meteorologists say the unseasonably cool weather can be blamed on Typhoon Neoguri, the storm that hit Japan this week. It caused the jet stream to ripple, allowing cool Canadian air to come south.
You don't have to worry about have to constantly drink water all the time, because now you can just focus on work a little bit better without having that heat and humidity.
Areas like Chicago and Minneapolis will see some of those extreme temperature drops, but the East Coast is expected to get some minor relief as well. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
The Church of England has voted to allow women to become bishops, ending one of the church's longest and most divisive disputes. The church's National Assembly approved the historic step, reaching the required two-thirds majority in each of its 3 houses. The Archbishop of Canterbury says the change marks the completion of a process that started more than 2 decades ago with the ordination of women as priests. An atheist is set to deliver the invocation in the New York town that won the U.S. Supreme Court case, upholding its right to begin meetings with prayer. In the town of Greece, leaders argue people of any faith were welcome to give the invocation. Atheist Dan Courtney says he asked for the opportunity immediately after the High Court's decision back in May. The Supreme Court's ruling declared the town's prayers were in line with national traditions as long as the prayers did not denigrate non-Christians or try to win converts. Coming up, suppose you were threatened with a lawsuit and a hefty fine for talking about Jesus in public. Hear what happened after one county commissioner stood up for her faith. A school district in California is standing by its decision to ban any reference to God or Jesus in a high school graduation speech. Brooks Hamby thanked Jesus in his salutatorian speech last month, even though school administrators had taken out references to Jesus and the Christian faith in 3 previous versions of his speech. Todd Starnes of Fox News reports attorneys for the Brawley Union School District are defending its right to censor graduation speeches and ban any speech that refers to God or Jesus. The letter says, quote, "It is well established in the Ninth Circuit and California that a public school salutatorian has no constitutional right to lead a prayer or include sectarian or proselytizing content in his or her graduation speech." Well, she was willing to go to jail for praying in the name of Jesus as a public official. And now, where did this happen? Iran? North Korea? Not at all. Right here in the United States. John Jessup brings us her important story.
Robin Frazier, a 2-term county official in Maryland, isn't shy about her Christian faith. It's what almost landed this granddaughter of a Methodist minister on the wrong side of the law earlier this year.
Thinking of what Jesus did for me on the cross, I would not say his name because I might go to jail. I don't think so. I mean, I just couldn't do that.
Robin Frazier calls Carroll County home. It's a place she grew up. Similarly, she's no stranger to politics. She's worked for the local county and the state of Maryland. But it was her second stint as a county commissioner that got her caught up in controversy.
A prayer showdown in Carroll County.
Public prayer takes center stage in Carroll County.
Praying or preaching? That's the subject of a federal lawsuit that has called into question prayers offered by Carroll County commissioners at their board meeting.
Frazier made waves when she defied a federal judge's order that banned commissioners from opening their meetings with prayers to Jesus, which they had done since being sworn in.
I think that that is an infringement on my First Amendment rights of free speech and free religion, and I think it's a wrong ruling. But out of respect for my colleagues, I'm not sure how strongly they feel about it. I'm willing to go to jail over it.
She made that statement and recited a prayer some attribute to George Washington the day after the ban came down, which just so happened to be her turn to lead in prayer.
I didn't want to be directly defiant to the judge. I prayed about how I could draw a line. The more I thought about it, the more it made me angry that we would be told not only that we couldn't pray to who we wanted to, but that we couldn't use certain words.
Frazier says ultimately it was an easy stand to make, even though she and the commission were in the middle of a lawsuit with a possibility of tens of thousands of dollars in fines. The challenge came from a group of residents who said the prayers were divisive. But Frazier says that was never the intent. She contends the commission wanted to be respectful of others, but remain true to their convictions.
The idea of inviting people to pray with us, we said we wouldn't do that. It would just be the board. So, yeah, we kind of looked at the law and tried to be within it, but still asked for wisdom and guidance as we conducted our business.
Still, the plaintiffs say they felt the prayer policy was coercive and insulting.
I reached a point, as others have, where you just get tired of going to the meetings and being an excluded class of individuals.
The case is still pending, but Frazier's hopeful she's on the winning side after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of legislative prayers earlier this year. She believes her case, and others like it, point to a decline in religious liberties.
I guess that's what motivates me to stand up for the Lord, is because we will not be America if we push God out. All of these things are to try and limit religion.
While she's received plenty of support for taking a stand for Judeo-Christian values, she's also faced a lot of backlash, with some even suggesting this was all a stunt to sway voters for their support.
That was the furthest thing from my mind, just like every other issue. I even tried hard not to politicize it, which is one of the reasons I'm having this interview now and not before the election, because I didn't even want to give the impression that I was trying to do that, because this wasn't about that at all.
And for those who know her best, like longtime friend and lawyer Bob Lennon, they say Robin Fraser is as genuine as they come.
She's an amazing person. She, as I say, she doesn't have an ego. She's just a genuinely good person, and she's exactly what a public servant should be. She's there to serve and help people.
In June's Maryland primaries, Fraser lost her re-election bid to a fellow Republican. She concedes possibly in part because of the battle over prayer. Unfazed, she says she wouldn't change a thing and is proud of her political record and the stand she made for her Christian faith.
It was much, much bigger than me, and it made me know that I was in the right place at the right time to be used of God, and if that was, maybe that was the full purpose I was in here this 4 years.
John Jessup, CBN News, Westminster, Maryland.
Up next, he lost his home and his family when he was just 13, but he never lost his faith. How this man survived life on the streets to become an evangelist to the nations. Tariku Fufa was just 13 when his father kicked him out of the house for becoming a Christian. He was forced to live on the streets of Ethiopia. But Tariku never gave up hope that God had a plan for his life. Since then, the evangelist has taken the gospel message from Ethiopia to Zimbabwe, and his goal is to send African missionaries around the world. Our Gary Lane sat down with Tariku to hear his amazing story of love, forgiveness, and purpose.
When you were young, you were introduced to Christ. How did that happen?
I was searching for love. At age 13, my older brother, he shared Christ with me. And when he told me about Christ's love, that Jesus loves people, just that time, moment when I gave my life to Christ, and then for the first time, I knew someone who can love me. And then my dad said, Tariku, I give you choice between Jesus and your family. And then he said, choose. And then I said, Dad, I choose Jesus. When I said this, my dad beat me up. My stepmom also, she beat me up. My siblings, they cheered him, saying, Dad, do it, kill him. And then that moment, he even cut my face with his teeth. He shed my blood. And if you watch closely, there are even scars still on my body. That night, he threw me on the street. So from that day, for the next 6 years, I lived on my own most of the years on the street, and life was very hard. And then Lord said after that, I will heal you from this asthma. One day, as I was working in the kitchen, I got suffocated. And I thought that day I was going to die. And then as I was crying, God, I heard the silent and quiet voice of the Lord flowing down into my heart. It's not audible sound, but I could hear it inside. And God said to me, Tariku, my son, don't cry. You are not without help. He said, I will take you to university, and then you will get your degree, and then you put down your degree and move on to share my gospel all over the world in the language that you have never spoken. And then Lord said after that, I will heal you from this asthma. After 6 years of separation, one day my dad showed up at my high school, and then my dad, the first question he asked me was, he said, is this a real Tariku or is this a ghost? And then I reminded him, I said, Dad, you remember 6 years ago when you kicked me out of your home, you said your Jesus never cared for you, you abandoned me, you rejected me, you left me 2 days. But Jesus became my dad. Jesus became my mom. Jesus became my sister, my brother. Jesus became everything I needed in life. When I said that, my dad, he shed his tears, and then he said, son, would you please forgive me? And then I forgave him. He hugged me, he kissed me, and then he said, son, I love you. And that was the sweetest moment as well in my life. And then after that, he invited me back home. Then I went back home, and then when my half-brothers and sisters, when they saw me alive, that day they also gave their life to Christ. And then in my hometown, Jesus was named after my name. People said Jesus of Tariku. And they could really see who really Jesus is in my life. From there, Campus Crusade sent me to Uganda to do my staff training there. And then I came back and started ministry in Ethiopia 11 years ago with 6 students. And then 8 years later, when I was asked now to move to Zimbabwe with my wife, those 6 students multiplied and grown into 7,300. And then staff in Zimbabwe, they pray every year. It was amazing for me to see people praying for 40 days. In 2012 alone, 398 churches have been planted in Zimbabwe.
What should we pray? Not only for Ethiopia and Zimbabwe, but other parts of Africa. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I will say just pray for a spiritual revival. We need God's power moving extraordinarily and then supernaturally. And then we've got a lot of challenge. Islam is coming to Africa and is there. When investors come, they also come with their mosque. So pray that all our Muslim brothers and sisters, that they know Christ. Pray that Jesus Christ will be the focus of African people. Pray also for Africa churches and pastors, leaders to come together and then say, this is our time. Let's get up and then send missionaries all over. I hear a lot people saying this is Africa's time, but I really want to see Africa want to begin to send missionaries into other parts of the world. United States, Europe have sent missionaries to Africa, but now we believe it's now Africa's time to send missionaries to all over. So we have a vision of raising over 100,000 African missionaries to go all over, and so pray for that.
Okay, we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
CBN's Orphans Promise is helping needy Roma families through the SEED program in Ukraine. This season, 14 villages from the Transcarpathian region are participating. 30 hectares of land are used for raising crop and animals to help 236 needy families. Even children pitch in to help with planting crops and collecting eggs. While the crisis continues in eastern Ukraine, life goes on as normal in western Transcarpathia, with expectations of the largest harvest ever this year. Well, that is going to do it now for CBN News Today. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us right here again next time. Make it a terrific Tuesday.